Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for making it here. I was indeed here a year ago, and remember all of the crisis phone calls, people telephoning in, attempts to Skype in, and all the kind of business with the hurricane. So it's a huge relief to welcome you on a beautiful sunny afternoon to the Independent PR Firms Forum. I'm just going to take about 3 or 4 minutes at the beginning. For those of you who don't know who is the Network One, it's a company I founded 10 years ago. So we are, old by agency standards in a way now, perhaps, not by everybody's standards, but still young in terms of our involvement with public relations. We began as an advertising and paid communications firm, entered public relations really 3 years ago actively. So we're very much still learning, still making contacts, and I welcome the opportunity to learn from many of the more eminent people who will be on the panel and on the stage during the course of the summit. Quick word on who are we and why are we sponsoring this forum. We, over 10 years, have built up a portfolio through traveling the world, through doing our research, through visiting and meeting agency leaders of something over 800 independent marketing communications firms across all different communications disciplines, now in 106 countries, which leaves us 3 behind WPP, according to Sir Martin Sorrell. So we've got 3 more countries to find, and I think some of those Caribbean islands might be calling, actually, but we'll see. We have, I think, something over 150 PR firms now in 59 countries. We added Lithuania. Great visit with Consensus PR in Lithuania last week, so we're now up to 59. And it's most of the major markets. Obviously, we're now represented with PR firms as well as other forms of communication agency. What is special about the Network One? We are not a directory. We're not kind of a search function like Google. We pride ourselves on knowing each agency and its owners and its managers personally. None of those 800 agencies are people that we found off the internet and hoped for the best with. I've been to many agencies that I would not want to work with and are not included in that number. We always visit new agencies for ourselves. We are greatly helped by recommendations from other people in the industry as to who is good, who they trust and they work with. We work directly with owners and senior management, and we are, most importantly, we are flexible and non-exclusive. And it's a business model which is a little different from some independent networks, and we'll explore that in some of the panels. What we aim to do is to help marketing clients or corporate communication heads to find the best independent agency for their needs. We work with multiple agencies in each country, so we don't have conflict problems. And most importantly, as clients told us when we began our business, they said the most important thing that you can bring as independents is speed. It's not just creativity, innovation, fast thinking, strategy. Of course, all those things are important. They said the thing that we need most importantly today is speed. And if that was true 10 years ago, before the era of social media, by heck, is that true today? We're not an agency ourselves. Otherwise, we would be a rival of the very people that we set out to help. We're certainly not a holding company. We have no ambition to own agencies. We are not a search consultant that goes around looking to create expensive pitches on a doubtful structural basis. And we're not a traditional one agency per country network. In fact, and this is a really important point, we work alongside traditional independent networks like PRGN, and David Landis will be on our panel just in a moment or two, like PROI, and other such organizations who've been incredibly helpful in helping us to build up this resource of agencies around the world that clients and agency leaders can call on. We are, exactly as I said, we're a resource. We provide bespoke networks, the right agency for the right need in each place for corporate clients, and we provide partners for lead agencies in countries where they're not present themselves and with the skills and experience and capability and character that each particular assignment demands. We believe in, what do we believe in? We believe in curiosity. I think it's the most important quality that any of us have in this industry. The an excitement about discovering new techniques, new ideas, and new partners to collaborate with. We're very much in favor of thinking outside the box. And you'll see that it reflected in the choice of some of the agencies who will be on the panels. We see ourselves, or we'd like to become, a communications community that brings together different sectors. You know, our background was in advertising and paid communications. We've come later, if you like, to PR and social media. But one of the things that we do very importantly is to help clients think across disciplines and to take briefs increasingly from clients where nowadays you don't get necessarily, I want a PR firm, I want an advertising agency. You get a marketing communication objective, and, well, can you help me to choose which of the disciplines I should work across? And if I need more than one, can you help me find people who will collaborate effectively? So it's not just about geography, it's about discipline. And the last thing that we really believe in, of course, is the importance to not just us, but the whole industry of a healthy and thriving independent sector, because time and again, it's the independent sector that really drives innovation. We express our beliefs through talking at all sorts of different conferences and festivals. This is a particularly good one. We're also at places like Cannes, like Eurobest, the Crystal Elma Festival in Turkey a couple of months ago, the Interactive Marketing Festival in Minneapolis last month. We bring people together. We do our own events sometimes. This was an event we did in São Paulo in April where we brought together some of the best advertising and also PR firms across Latin America. We publish with Campaign magazine in London, the world's leading independent agencies. Oops, one forward too fast there. Sorry, yes, I was not quite sure how the cookie goes back, so I'm going to tell you this one. The headline in that particular issue of the world's leading independents was about size, and size not being of crucial importance. Thank you. For clients, size does not matter. And this is a chart I've shown to many people, and it sort of often arouses surprise. And it's this, it's kind of comparing the actual value of all of the big holding companies put together, Omnicom, WPP, Publicis, IPG, and Havas, come to something under half the value of Facebook, and about 20% of the value of Google. Just for another perspective, Tencent, the Chinese internet firm, is around about almost where Facebook is. So if somebody says to your clients, it's all about scale, you have to be huge in China, look at us, WPP, we are, think twice, because it's not about scale, it's about the ability to navigate intelligently among the giants of our industry, which are Facebook and Google and Tencent. I love this quote. It was earlier this week, talking to analysts, David Jones, who runs Havas, is quoted as saying, one of our global clients said to me recently, innovation and creativity sit at the opposite end of the spectrum to scale, and we share that view. Well, he's running one of the big 5 holding companies, so it'll be interesting to see how he slims it down, but I guess we'll find out. Probably that's enough from me, except just to echo Paul's point. Independent agencies are winning around half the creative awards at Cannes, last year 48.2%, and something around about a half of the Sabre Awards. And I did ask Paul why he thought that was, and he said, I think it's because a lot of the times the PR firms in the big networks get straitjacketed. Please don't tread on my patch because this patch is advertising. This patch is the digital division. This patch is our social media company. Please stick to PR. And for us, it's not about sticking to anything. It's about using the base of the skill and knowledge that we have to move into other areas where communication skills will help our clients. With that kind of note, I would like to welcome to the stage our 4 participants in our first panel. Just a very quick housekeeping note on this. Veronica Checa, who was in the program from Argentina, unfortunately can't join us today. Her son fell over, injured himself, and he's not seriously injured, but he's having an operation in hospital today. Like any good mother, you should be there. So we send Veronica our very best wishes. But I'm delighted to say that at short notice, we've been able to get a perfect replacement in Marcel Loko from the Hirschen agency in Germany to join the other members of our panel, who are David Landis, that heads up the PRGN, Public Relations Global Network. Kathy Christodooulou, one of the partners of Action Global, based in Cyprus, but with many offices in different parts of that region. And who have I forgotten? Kerem, there you are, Kerem. Thank you very much. And Kerem from the Prime Group, specifically division of the Prime Group called United Minds. But they're going to tell you about themselves much more effectively than I. So, gentlemen, please come join us. Gentlemen and lady, please come and join us. So we're going to do a discussion for around about probably half an hour, and then we are going to open the floor to questions. There are no right and wrong answers, but please feel free to prep a question. If there's something that you radically disagree with and you can't wait till the end, it is allowed to raise your hand and to stand up, but probably we'll do that, and we'll definitely save some time for questions at the end. I'm just conscious that people over there, you may be difficult to see the panelists from there. If it is and you'd prefer, there is more space on this side or on that side, which might be slightly better seats, but I'll leave that entirely to your discretion. Right, first of all, welcome. Just a quick recap. Kathy, Kerem, David, and Marcel. Each of you runs or is a senior director or partner in independent firms. I'd just be great if we could begin with a little introduction. Say, if you just tell everybody, who you are, where you come from, and what's different about your particular firm. And I'm going to start right at the far end with Marcel.
Oh, we should start with Kathy.
Oh, no. All right, we're going to start with Kathy. I promised Kathy I wouldn't start with her.
Okay.
So there we are.
Take over.
Obviously, this is going to be an undisciplined session, but that's sort of how we like it. Okay. Kathy Christodooulou from Action Global.
Hi, so my name is Kathy Christodooulou. I'm from Cyprus. I'm the owner of Action Global Communications, which is a leading emerging markets strategic communication consultancy. We're independent. We have 40 years of experience in managing client reputations, and we have wholly owned offices in Eastern Europe, Eastern Mediterranean, Russia, the Central Asian republics, including Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and also Pakistan, the Middle East, in every market in the Middle East, and North Africa. I think if I could say Action's strength, Action's success has been on the strengths that we have in each individual market. So in each market, we have our own agencies led by local managers who manage multinational companies and also local companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Kerem.
Yes, my name is Kerem Yazgan. I'm from Prime Group in Sweden. We are Sweden's largest communication consultancy. 130 consultants, and we have offices in Brussels, New York, South Africa, and we have a guy in Mumbai as well. You asked me in advance what our international strategy is, and I had actually not a good response to that. I will try to give a good answer to that today. But it's been back and forth. So it would be very interesting to have this discussion here today because it's a tricky question.
David's here in two capacities. He's both the owner and founder of a PR firm himself and also chairman of the Public Relations Global Network.
Thanks, Julian. It's my pleasure to be here today. I'm David Landis from San Francisco-based Landis Communications. We're a digital, social, and public relations firm, almost 25 years old, but I'm really here today in my role as president of the Public Relations Global Network, and I want to say hello to George Martinez and C.L. Conroy. They are our Miami partners, and they're sitting in the audience, so welcome to you. We're a network of about 50 affiliates, independent agencies in about 80 markets worldwide with revenues of $110 million, and our differentiator is really being independent, really grown and bred and of the market. So that's how we compete against some of the big multinationals, and we're really excited to be a part of the panel. Thank you.
Marcel comes from a business with a slightly different background that, Marcel, you will describe better than me. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Thank you, Katie, first, that you started. Yes, my name is Marcel Loko, and I am the founder of an agency called Zum Goldenen Hirschen, which is a complicated name, so just keep in mind Hirschen Group. And the Hirschen Group is a communication group in Germany. It's one of the top 5, the biggest 5 independent agencies in Germany. We have 400 people, and our key belief has always been from the beginning that communication and even advertising is not just running a TV commercial or just creating a poster. It was developing communication ideas that can be displayed around every communication discipline. That's why we're kind of happy about what is happening now, and I'm very happy to be here in a PRSummit, even as we are kind of known or famous in Germany for from advertising side, but that we are that it shows the convergence of all the communication disciplines. And out of 400 people we have in Germany, around 40 people are working in PR business, and our biggest businesses in Germany are we're working for governmental departments like the health department or Department of Social Affairs in Germany, but also for political parties, also for BMW, for ING DiBa, for banking. So we have a whole range of every kind of communication. And the question is, why are we here? And why are we here? We are here because we just launched today in Germany an independent alliance of agencies. We called this the Golden Dudes. Of course, it's a reference to this spectacular, great movie of Big Lebowski. And the Golden Dudes is an alliance, an affiliation of independent agencies in the G20 countries in the world with kind of the same spirit that we have. Okay, maybe I tell more later, but I think it was enough to give a quick impression of who we are.
Get a good sense, yeah. I want to bring the conversation to kind of things that would be questions that appeal to every independent agency. David, I might ask you to start with this one, because you work with so many different independent agencies. To what extent do agencies seek to go international as a defensive mechanism? In other words, if I don't have international context, I'll lose clients. And to what extent are they going because they genuinely believe that it will help build their business and their revenue?
I think honestly today, the world has changed so dramatically. If you think that you can be an independent firm based in San Francisco, you're going to go out of business. Everything is global, and why is that? It's because of technology. So technology has changed the world. Technology means that you can work in San Francisco, in Mumbai, in Dubai, in Berlin, in Cyprus, wherever. So I think that more than it being one of fear, it's really, if you're going to be successful in business, you have to embrace this new paradigm and you have to be international. That's one of the reasons why I joined this network about 10 years ago. And I think the smart agencies will realize that in order to make sure your future is a successful one, you've got to look beyond your own market.
I mean, Kathy, you and your father have run the business for many, many years, long before the era that David's talking about. I mean, what made you go from being presumably a very good agency in Cyprus to kind of creating this global, privately managed empire?
Yeah.
And how on earth did you go about it?
I think I agree very much with David in that it is global, and for us, global also means all of the markets where a lot of multinationals are now entering. We went in the early 90s, but entering like Eastern Europe or let's say North Africa, the Morocco, Tunisia, we've now opened our first agency in Libya, where there is huge potential, and there is a lot of companies are now need to do PR in these markets. And global doesn't just mean the developed markets necessarily, it means all the markets all around the world, without an exception. Our strategy was to go into markets where the PR, so every time we saw that there was a need for PR in a market, we would open an agency there, we would have a setup. And we've been developing in those markets ever since. new markets for PR is also untouched revenue, and where demand is growing, obviously there's a lot of revenue to be gained as well.
But I mean, how do you do it? If you go into somewhere like Libya
Yeah.
after a civil war, presumably a lot of the industry, like everything else, is destroyed. I mean, how do you know who is to trust?
Yeah, no, it's very difficult. It's very challenging, and I think that we were lucky that my father had the vision to start, let's say, 20 years ago, because when we went into markets, there was no competition, and that's probably why now our strategy is not to go into developing markets, but to go into markets where there isn't competition. But you have to find the right people. Everything is about the right people, and if you don't have the right team in the local market, then it doesn't work. And sometimes you have to test people out, and the other thing that I wanted to say here, that even though you look at the globe as like one market, it's very important that you take into account local intricacies when you're setting up an agency in in another market.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Katie says. We just launched a magazine that I have here. I do some self-promotion for us because it's brand new and you can order it on our website, and it's called The International, and the title is Going Global, and it's exactly what Katie is saying, that you get to think global, but you get to act local. This is conventional wisdom, I agree, but for us at the service industry, I think it's very important, and how to do that, and it's all about people. I agree completely with you. That's why we are, for example, traveling around the world as you do it, Julian, 1 million miles, and you need it. You need to meet people, you need to talk to them, and of course, at the end of the day, it's a matter of trust, and it's a matter of try and error. I guess that with you have some bad experiences too, maybe 1 out of, say, 5.
Yeah.
But without all this knowledge, it would be 1 out of 2.
Yeah.
So I think it's all about people, because it's a global business.
I think independence does breed innovation. I liked what you said earlier, Julian. One of the things I think we pride ourselves on in the Silicon Valley and San Francisco market is innovation. And I think what the independent agencies bring that is perhaps different than the multinationals is this idea of thinking outside the box, partly because we have to. We have to do it to survive. So whereas a multinational may go in and bring the guy from New York to open the Singapore office, well, we have a guy in Singapore who was born and bred there, who knows that market, and that's what you want. That's that local idea that you're talking about. And I think that's what's going to make the independence successful.
I'm going to ask Kerem to challenge that a little bit, because Prime has not gone and met 30 agencies in a year and signed them all up. But you've kind of gone about this in a much more, not slower, but a slightly different way, with people going from Sweden to South Africa to New York. Why have you done it that way, rather than gone, let's have 12 agencies and let's go meet people from the local markets?
Well, we actually made it all the ways possible. But at the point we are right now, I think we have a very boring strategy called International Standard, based out of Stockholm. But the thing is that what we've done is trying to focus. We want to be international. We want to be globally relevant. But we connected that to our creativity. We made sure that what we produce, what we do in our firm, and our output has a global relevance. So the creativity is more. It used to be more when it comes to execution. How creative is this press release? How creative is this thing we do in this channel? Now we're more when it comes to conceptualizing. That's where we're trying to focus our energy, and that's where we're trying to have the international relevance. And one of the things that's been important for us is we want to have influence. We want to have input from other parts, other markets, other perspectives. That has been crucial for us. And that's one point I think we're missing constantly. It's always about, if I am always the lead agency, that's how we all think in here, and who do we have in the other countries that can execute something? But I think we have to turn that around, make sure that the concepts that we create, the creativity is international in itself. So that has been our focus. But one lesson is that PR is a full contact sport. We've been relations, it's public relations with the target groups, but it's also relations like this. And that has been very difficult. We tried in several countries, like we put a flag in a country and we put a person in a country, but it hasn't worked out because we haven't had the solid relations necessary to build what we need to do with the clients.
So are you kind of almost saying, don't go to a new country unless you have somebody managing and running your business there who is local to that country?
Well, yes, and I think we tried it all. We also built network. We had a Nordic network that we managed, but we actually discarded that model. We stay closer to our clients. We look at their needs, and we're trying to have knowledge about the independent PR firms that are out there, and trying to be pragmatic in every situation and in every project and every client. Of course, the transaction costs are higher. But I think that has been the model that we're working with at this point. So I guess we're
something
different.
that we've been seeing, I mean, I've been seeing it for many years, is that global strategies only work if you take into consideration local input. If you might be the lead agency, but I don't believe that you can put together a global strategy unless you have taken in all the intricacies of then communicating that downwards. I don't think it works, and I've seen it fail many times with big multinational companies as well.
I mean, do you think, to anyone in the panel, has that always been true? I mean, there's always been the global local balance. Is local input becoming more important in 2013?
I think it's just taking on a different emphasis, because sort of the general thought pattern is, oh, we're worldwide, we can reach all these audiences, again, because of technology. But, ultimately, public relations is about the local angle and the local story and the local connections. So I agree with what everybody is saying on this panel. You can't be successful unless you have that element.
But I think that social media makes the world way more local. But of course, on a global perspective, I think Facebook is a good example, because Facebook is a global brand, it's a global thing. But if you read Facebook in Lithuania, for instance, it will be in Lithuanian, and so you can't have a Facebook campaign for Lithuania from London, it just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to give another answer or another perspective about how we as an independent start working internationally. Our first international adventure was in Dubai, where we opened up a kind of pop-up office because we got a big client. It was a transport authority. It was about the bus and metro system there. And they asked us, okay, can you come here and help us here? And so we opened up an office with 10 people for 2 years. But in Dubai with 5 locals and 5 from Germany. So it was a perfect mix of kind of the German, experience plus the local insights.
But I think what we're... Sorry.
No, sorry.
I think what we're seeing is that it's shifting more towards the global perspective in a sense, because what we're seeing is also a global middle class, a global urban middle class that shares values across cities all over the world. I mean, I have more common with you living in San Francisco than I have with the guy living in Omsele in Sweden that has like 1,000 inhabitants. And I think that framework creates a lot of opportunities for a global approach that reaches out to a global target group. That's huge, actually, but as long as you can tap into those drivers.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just talking about social media and about how it, for me, even if you could have, again, a global social media campaign, it still has to be localized. Like if we think about Libya, because I now have 4 clients in Libya, big international brands, all of their communication is done on Facebook. 90% of the population communicates on Facebook, but it's in Arabic. So if I'm a big global client thinking that I can launch a Facebook campaign in English, it doesn't work unless I can localize it and also be able to monitor what people are saying.
And the worst is that they expect an answer.
Yeah.
Of course.
And the answer must be in their language.
And for someone who understands what they're trying to say.
Definitely.
Right. We went through a whole rebranding for the Public Relations Global Network this year, and what we came up with was the world's local agency. And I think that sort of says it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to switch a little bit now to, we've talked about the importance of local and diversity, but let's talk about the importance of global for a moment. I had two questions for the panel, really. One is about how you develop something which is like a global thought leadership. And I know that's something that Prime particularly is kind of very focused on. But I also like to ask you, as managing teams, whether they're owned teams or teams that you brought together, I mean, how do you communicate internally? How do you create the benefits of being in a network in terms of sharing views and sharing experiences without that kind of rigid sort of we own you structure that traditionally networks used to have?
So it's all about communication, isn't it? I mean, really, we're in the business of PR. It's like, you know, the shoemaker's shoes and all that. And I think the reason our network is successful is we have monthly calls with all the members, and we have committees where everyone's involved. And we have a Facebook page where all the staffs can relate to each other. Let's say I have a staff member who's working on a consumer tech client, and they just, you know, can't come up with an idea. They can go to the Facebook page, talk to people all around the world who've had the same challenges, get some ideas and work together. But I also think there's nothing like this firsthand experience. We talked about this over lunch. Meeting people face to face is still so critical to the success of our business. So you have to build that into the structure.
And also, you know, I think your question is also like, how can you give your client a global approach or a global work, a real global work? How are you doing it? And of course, it's about people too. You know, we are, for example, we're now in a pitch, an international pitch for a bank, for example. And here we already work with our dudes in 2 or 3 countries who join us.
You have female dudes too?
They're dudettes.
Okay, dudettes.
And of course, but you got to be in touch with them. You got to talk to them. You got to develop together. And of course, you know, it's more challenging than working with, say, in California for a Californian project with Californian people. That's easy, and that's working on an international level is more complicated and more challenging, of course. But you can do it, you can make it, but you got to bring these international people together. It's like a movie, for example, if you shoot a movie with different stars from different countries, you know, you got to bring them together, and then the work can be good. But you definitely get to bring the best people together on one place and work together. And I think that's what we all are doing, you know.
Yeah.
But again, the interesting change that happened in our communication industry on a global level is, I think, it's a change that the world is not. We always say it's not an Anglo-Saxon world anymore. I'm sorry for some people here, but it's not an English and American world anymore where you're sitting in London or in New York and tell people what to think, what to do. You know, the former Coca-Cola approach, you know, which, like from Atlanta, you know, around the world. I think that this is the fundamental change we have now. If we develop an international campaign, you need people from most of the regions working actually on the job, and then the result will definitely be at least internationally proven or have an international stamp, a real international stamp on it.
One of the things that we've done, which I think is a little bit unique to some of the other bigger networks, is we have a hub system. So I have established like a team of communications experts in one country to support also a hub. So for example, for the Middle East, it will be based in Dubai. In the former Soviet Union, it's based in Russia because they all speak the same language around those markets. And for North Africa, it would be Egypt. And then because I find sometimes when having these massive meetings of all of the people all together, sometimes people don't get to really share their ideas. You have more developed ideas for PR and then some less developed ideas. But I find if you get together people on a regional basis, they get the opportunity to share experiences more easily, and also they can connect better because they're similar experiences.
But do you get together the leaders, or do you also get together the staff? How do you spread the message down from the agency owners and MDs?
I think that's,
the
the leader's responsibility from my perspective.
Well,
Yeah, but often the staff is even more important.
yeah, we do both. We actually have meetings with what we call the second in commands. You know, it's important. I think if it's too low a level person, they don't have enough experience to really gain from the experience. But we've had meetings with the second in commands that have been eminently successful. And then I think with social media, through Twitter and Facebook or LinkedIn, there's so much opportunity for people at all levels to engage.
Yeah.
How do you get them to do it? I mean, I've really struggled to get people to connect on LinkedIn groups
Yeah,
and
me too.
Facebook groups. And some people seem to have a success. What is the secret?
It's part of the corporate culture. I learned this we had a meeting in Sydney, and there's a woman named Carolyn Taylor who's marked this name down. She's a guru about organizational corporate culture. And she said, you make it part of the culture. You make it part of what is expected. So in our shop, for instance, we don't have someone who just does social media and someone who just does writing and someone who just does media outreach. Everybody does everything, and they're all expected to do it all, and they see that everybody else does it all, so then they fall in line. I don't have to crack the whip. They know what's expected because their peers are telling them what to do.
I think a major shift for us, it came like 5 years ago when we started our international journey. And one exhilarating thought was, we're actually competitors. And I think that is quite, it became a news flash for us actually, because we thought that we were the best. Sweden was conquered. Why should we do anything more? But that thought in itself created an insight that we're almost never the best. There's always someone out there. There's always a bit better. So that created an influx of ideas, of thoughts, of people coming to us. And it changed our culture very much. And I think we tend to look too much to our own industry. What happened with us, we tried to look more into other industries, other segments, academics, politics, etc., to get more influx, to bring the value to our clients. So I think that changed our culture very much, that international outlook. And I think you have to build a culture around that says, well, I don't care about, if you only have the market perspective, you haven't done your lesson. You need to have a bigger perspective always, but you have to have the market perspective as well, of course.
Is it still a hard sell to clients? I mean, I think we're all convinced of the value of independence and outreach. Has it got easier? Has it got more difficult to the client who says, look, I'm a global corporation. I want to work with someone who's got offices in every major country of the world?
This is the very reason we are developing this offer, because of course technology makes it easy and nowadays, and clients realized that they don't need 200 agencies in 150 countries, because 15 years ago, for example, of course, you couldn't run an ad without being there. Now you can run an ad in Kazakhstan by sending a mail, a PDF. And I think this is the key story that leads clients to work more with smaller agency, maybe with local agencies. They know, they trust, etc. Especially for us, for example, because as we are a German company, Germany is the biggest exporting nation in the world. That's why we have a lot of clients who worked with the WPP and Omnicom agencies, and of course, talking to them, they were really excited about the prospect that there can be a German agency that can help them on an international level.
I'm going to take a slightly different view than Marcel. I think it's a huge challenge to explain this global idea to a prospect when you're based in whatever city you're based in, because they get the concept of Edelman or of Burson Marsteller or of any of these big companies. They don't get the idea of what does that mean. Their first question always to us is, well, how is that going to really work?
Yeah.
And who's really in charge? And how do decisions get made? And there are all these questions. So I would say I think that's a big challenge, and I think the answer is educating prospects that you get greater benefit from somebody who's independent and perhaps a little more creative. Look, if there's a big client, sometimes the best thing to do is pick up the phone and call my good colleague Scott Allison, who's sitting out there in the audience, or call Edelman or one of the big multinationals. But there are many times that I think we can offer a better answer for the client.
But the short answer to David, I think that here there's difference between countries, because the German industry, for example, is an as I said, is an exporting nation, and all these companies, like Siemens or Bosch or Miele, etc. BMW, we have plenty of companies, and internally they are restructuring themselves. So they do it a lot. We call it by hand and by foot. It's not this American global way to act, So they, so that the German clients doesn't ask for kind of who is exactly in charge here, there, etc., etc. They're used to work by hand and by foot and work by foot, and that's why they're so interested in our approach.
Sorry, I just want to say my response would be between the two. So I think it's got a lot easier than it was. I think because a lot of multinationals have been scarred and have seen that one global agency doesn't provide the service in each and every country, because they actually don't have agencies in each and every country, but it is still a challenge.
I'd like to just open this quickly, because we've got limited time, but if to the audience, do people agree with what you've been hearing? Is there anybody who'd like to challenge this? Or if there's a question that you'd like to put to the panel or any individual member, please do feel free. Don't all raise your hands at once. Please, yeah. I'm going to stand up here so I can see everybody from both sides. Please, your question.
Thanks, hi.
Please do say who you are before you ask the question.
Thanks. Richard from CC Group in the UK. One thing that I kind of stumbled across about 10 years ago was what I describe as a playbook from Text 100, which basically explained to their account directors and new business winners why a global agency was better than independents. And it seems to me that at no point have independent firms done the opposite. And you talked about the need for education, David.
Yeah.
I'm wholeheartedly with you on that.
Yeah.
Isn't that something that could be relatively easily whipped up?
Yeah.
Very good.
Should we do it
point.
now?
Yeah.
Very good point.
I think that's a great point. And if
Yeah.
any, I'm sure we'll share stuff on whether it's Facebook or whatever means we're going to do after the conference. But if anybody wants to pick that up with this group or a broader audience, I'd be very happy to kind of chair or coordinate anything of that
Well,
nature.
and to your point, it's something, we teach our clients to develop the message and stay on message. Why aren't we on message, right? Good point. Yeah. Good
But I
point.
think we have to keep our eyes on the ball, because we shouldn't. Their competitive advantage is, of course, their structure, their multinationality. Our competitive advantage is always creativity, and that is where we should. So the first question should always be, how can we use that creative concept that you just created in all markets?
Yeah.
And then the second question could be, how can we implement that? How can we use that? How can we? So we shouldn't always. I recognize your need, and we need it as well. But we shouldn't always be too eager to compete on their terms.
Good.
I think the third question, too, that we always say is, who's really going to be on your account? Because I always say the dirty little secret about the multinationals is that they have to make a profit. So for them to make a profit costs a lot more than for me to make a profit. And you get senior people. The people who are sitting in this room with you are on your account. And that really sells.
Yeah, please.
Yep, I just wanted to follow up on the discussion about creativity globally. I found it's very interesting.
Sorry, please do say who you are. Yeah.
Rescue from 360 PR in the US. Can you give us an example, without giving away the secret sauce, how you do it? How do you
Okay. So how do you create global? I mean, are you looking for a universal truth that can go across? Are you sometimes looking for a lowest common denominator? I find it fascinating. I'd love to know, and if you have an example that you can give, I would love to hear it. We would love to hear it.
Yeah, well, there's not one answer, of course. I guess all those examples that you mentioned, yes. We're trying to stay focused on kind of the global discourse. It sounds presumptuous, of course, but one example would be a campaign we did for Electrolux called Vac from the Sea, where they wanted to market their vacuum cleaners as the greenest vacuum cleaners in the industry. And we said, well, there's not much to play with here. But there is a discourse out there about the environment, and there is like a island of plastics that are floating around in the Pacific Sea, and you are having difficulties in finding plastics to produce your machines, and they want to use more recycled plastics. Well, here's a discourse, and here's a challenge for you. Can't you just connect these? And then we did an inventory. Where is this topic discussed? And it's discussed all over the world. So we could find NGOs in almost all the places in the world that were committed to this idea and collecting plastics. And we made 5 vacuum cleaners that would kind of symbolize this effort, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So I think, well, that was kind of a short answer to your question.
I think to be, well, I'm just conscious of the little red light.
Yeah, sorry.
We kind of got to the end of our panel, but of course, there's a panel in an hour or so on exactly creativity and content. So hopefully there'll be a chance to discuss that a little bit more there. But we are out of time, and if we run over, we won't have time to hear the next people, so that would make us very unpopular. So I'd just like to thank Marcel, David, Kerem, and Kathy, please do come and talk to us kind of in the coffee breaks and things. We're here to meet people. That goes for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.